much blood sport in this country, so we want to talk a little bit about what's happening in terms of house prices. We see it all the time in the papers, and you know, we're constantly talking about this bubble that's been created. Is it going to burst at some point? And is it even a bubble, or are we just heading in a certain trajectory and this is the reality? So we thought we would take a look at housing prices, average housing prices right across the country. Let's start on the east side, actually. So we've got some stats here, starting in New Brunswick, where you can get an average house for how much?
About $179,000 in Fredericton.
Totally reasonable,
Yeah.
And everyone's groaning
Like
because
shocked.
this is Toronto.
Shocked.
Yeah, 179,000, which is great. Halifax, it goes up a little bit to 291.
Yeah, that's still, you know, fairly affordable. And when you look at incomes versus housing prices, the affordability factor is fairly reasonable.
Right.
Right.
Then let's go to the West Coast now.
Why you got to do that?
Let's take a little trip to Vancouver.
Sure.
What's going on in Vancouver?
Vancouver is interesting. The average home price, and this includes condos, semis, homes, is almost $1 million now.
The average home price.
Average home price. Toronto is a second place with, you know, $640,000 approximately on average for, and this is again, you know, a condo is mixed into this whole thing, because when you're talking about a detached home in Toronto, you're looking at over $1 million on average, and that's sort of, you know, a starter home. So there's a lot of interesting things going on. This is definitely a time to keep an eye on the market and watch what's going on. This country now has a division in the housing market where Toronto and Vancouver are doing one thing while the rest of the country is doing something else. And it makes it very challenging, especially in Vancouver and Toronto, where young families are trying to consider home ownership. We're actually, you know, crossing into a point where it's actually more affordable for some people just to rent.
Right.
And that's because these cities are going through a global transition, right? It's like New York and LA. Like, these are places where the foreign investors own a good part of the market share. They're forcing prices up, and that's the price you pay as a world-class city.
It's full circle back to the millennial conversation, isn't it? It makes perfect sense why you'd want to rent when the average house is $1 million. That just sounds crazy.